finally look at the methodology, and then we continue. By the time that we are done with the methodology, I'm hopeful that we will be in a position to analyze our data, and then get the results. So before we start, any question from anyone? Is there any question that somebody wants to ask? If somebody has a question, please, you are free to ask before we start. If no question, then let's go into today's class. Okay, just a minute. Just give me a minute. I'm just trying to set something up. Okay, good. So let's go there. So in trying to write an introduction is just like writing your thesis chapter 1, writing your paper's introduction. It's just like writing your thesis chapter 1. And I just want to take you through, because many of us are familiar with our thesis chapter 1. Like we are all familiar with our thesis chapter 1, right? Okay, so in trying to get our thesis chapter 1 done, we focus on an area that we call background of the study, or a section that we call background of the study. And then we write what we call the problem statements. From problem statements, we write what we call the research goal. Or aim or purpose, they mean the same thing. Then we write the research questions. It depends on where you are looking at it from. Some write research objectives before some objective before questions, and some also write even hypothesis. So I'm just giving you a normal introduction. It may be different from yours, like what you are doing now, but it's almost the same, similar. Justification of the research, the scope, limitations and delimitations, and then probably the proposed structure of the paper of the study. Okay, so yeah, so this is the normal introduction, chapter 1 of thesis, right? Okay, good. So, but when it comes to journal article, one thing that you need to know is that you don't have to break your introduction into these sections. So please, I want to mention this again, because I've seen this before, I think on about 2 or 3 occasions, where I led some students to write a journal article, and the students, one of the students or the students, they sent something to me. Can you see my screen, or you can? I want to be sure.
I can see.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, we can see. Good.
Dog, we can see, but we will appreciate it if you make it a full screen.
Oh, a full screen. I see. What is going on? What is showing? What can you see or something?
It's showing
Oh,
as the
okay.
normal Word document, but I'm just suggesting that you make the Word document full screen.
Okay. Can you see now? Is it full screen? Or how is it showing?
Yeah, increase. I
Yeah.
think increasing that place will be better. The
Is
font
it
size,
good?
yeah.
It's better now.
Yes. Unless maybe those
Ah,
who are
okay.
using mobile phones. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So great. So normally, as I mentioned, you see students, and I've experienced it before. They will send you work, and the work that they have sent you, they have divisions in a journal article. Please, in a journal article, conference paper, or conference papers, you don't have to, and even book chapters, you don't have to divide your chapter 1 into the thesis. The chapter 1 in this context, I'm talking about the introduction. You don't have to divide them into sections. It's not done. If you are writing thesis, it's acceptable for you to divide the chapter 1 into sections, into parts like background of the study, problem statement, blah, 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 and all that. It is acceptable for you to show all these things. So this is what I don't like. People coming in late kind of distract us. Yeah, so chapter 1 of your thesis, you are allowed to put in what? Sections. Sections. So section this, section that, section this, section that is allowed, is acceptable. But when it comes to journal articles, you are not supposed to put sections. So please take note of this. A journal article, in journal articles, it is not acceptable for you to put sections. So I don't want to. So I'm hoping maybe by next week or by next 2 weeks, I will be expecting all of you your chapter, your introduction, or the introduction section. I don't want to see you putting background of the study, research problem. That's not how it is done. I hope it is clear. Okay, let me quickly show you. That's one of my papers. Quickly, I'll come back right now to what we are doing. So if you look at this introduction, you can see that this is the introduction. I hope you can't see any subsections, right? There's no subsection. That's introduction. So in journal articles, for your introduction, don't put subsections. It's not a thesis. Take note of this. It's very important. Don't put subsection like background of the study, research problem. We don't do that in journal articles. But the question is, because I don't have the subsection, doesn't mean the information or the content, I'll lose the content. The answer is no. You will not lose the content. So if you already have something like thesis that you want to convert into a journal article, you have to collapse the sections together, collapse them. And how do you collapse the sections together? You have to remove things like background of the study. You have to remove this, and then you turn them into paragraphs. You have to collapse the sections, these parts. For thesis, is acceptable because thesis, whoever is going to examine your thesis will expect that you have background of the study, research problem, research questions, the purpose, the person, because if these things are not there, whoever is going to examine your thesis will mark you down. But for journal article, the introduction, you don't have to put in word sections. So you have to collapse. So I'm going to collapse the sections here. And before I collapse the sections, I just want to take you through what is important for each of the sections. So the background. So the background normally will show the overview or what the study is about. So for example, if your study is about financial literacy, customer service, sustainability, buildings, project management, circular economy, artificial intelligence, whatever topic that you are dealing with, give us a background. Give us, because maybe this is the first time that somebody is reading about your topic. Give us an idea about it. So generally you speak. I don't want to give you a specific, I'm just giving you guidelines because I know sometimes how some of these things work. I don't want to give you, and even me personally, the articles that I write, I think I have to say this, please, no one should come in late. I'm pleading with everyone from next week, because once you come in late, it just distracts us. So everyone should make sure you are here on time. I'm pleading. Okay, let me continue. So I have to even forgotten what I was saying, sorry. So give us an overview of what you are researching into. So your topic is about green buildings. Your topic is about financial literacy. Your topic is about sustainability. Your topic is about artificial intelligence. I don't know. Maybe this is the first time I'm reading. I don't know. Or whoever is going to read your article, the person has never read anything about your topic. So give us what the thing is about briefly. And I'll recommend between 100 to 200 words, giving us what the study is about. Then you go ahead to talk about the rationale. Why are you trying to study this? Why are you trying to study this thing? This study, why are you trying to study it? What is motivating you? What is the motivation? What is actually motivating you to write this article or to study this? You need to give us. It could be that maybe there is something ongoing around, maybe currently what is going on in Iran, between Iran, Israel, and America. Maybe that's what is motivating you. Or maybe you have been practicing, or you have been a practitioner for many years, and you have seen that something has not been done, and that's why you are researching into it. Or it could be anything can be the motivation for the study. So you have to talk about that. So with the background of the study, I would say between 200 to 300 words. 200 to 300 words should be okay. That should be okay for you to be able to write. So 200, just set yourself, write a very good, even the 200 to 300 words is even too much, but I'm just saying maximum, too much. Now you zoom into the next part. Before I go to the next part, I want to admit the person who is waiting. I think that's what I have to do. If I'm going to admit you, I think I need you. And you distract us. Okay, the next thing that you have to do, which is part of your introduction. So this background of the study will be a paragraph. The 200 to 300 words will be a paragraph. The next part should talk about the problem statement. The problem statement, to me, this is the part that will really make your research sensible to anyone who will be reading your study. And it has to do with what gap have you identified? and what gap are you trying to address? And what is gap? When we say in research, when we talk about the word gap, gap is a limitation, is a problem, is an issue, something that people have not been able to do. Either some people have not been able to do it, or there's a place, or there's an area that you see that many studies have not been conducted, and you want to conduct more studies to find out what is actually happening. Or some people conducted a study in the past and they couldn't complete, they did part of it and you want to continue. So that's it. What are the gaps? What are the gaps? So here I want to help everyone, and I want everyone to do this. Okay, I want everybody to do it. If you really want to be a good researcher, I know people do a lot of cut and paste in this area. And when I was in Ghana, that's what I used to do. I'm not shy about saying this. I used to, when I check people's introduction, I just go and copy and paste. And then maybe modify the thing small and then submit it as my research. But that's not a good way of doing research. That's not a good way of writing a good introduction. So for you to write a very good introduction, especially with the next section, which is the problem statement area, you need to identify gaps, limitations in existing literature, in existing studies. Okay, so there's one study here I'm going to use as a case study, but it doesn't mean that you must use only one study to do this case study. You must use more studies, and especially those of you who are writing theses, where you are expected to write many words. I expect you to use at least 10, base your study on at least 10 papers, and I'm going to help you out today. So just create an Excel sheet. So I'm saying this again, create an Excel sheet, Excel. I want to put this table in a different section so that you see it well. Okay, before I continue, let me go and admit the people. There's somebody here. Oh, they have joined already. Okay, I think there's nobody waiting. We'll go back. So you have to create this. I want to recommend to you, and that's what I did, and that's what I've been doing over the years. Just create an Excel or have an Excel sheet, spreadsheet, and then put down what we call research gaps. In trying to help you out, yesterday I saw something which is similar to what I'm trying to show you now online, which I want to share with you. So in research, in academic research gaps can be grouped into this, but it doesn't mean that these are the only gaps, but generally these are the gaps that you see. So we have what we call the evidence gap, we have knowledge gap, we have empirical gap, we have methodological gap, practical gap, theoretical gap, and population gap. What does this, what do they represent? So the evidence gap, for example, your current research contradicts existing research. And then the knowledge gap is about there's no or limited research on your topic. Empirical gap is there is no or limited empirical data for your research. Methodological gap. But I mean, some of these gaps, I don't want to go with this because some of them can be combined. Something like methodological gap and empirical gap, which has to do with data. It's kind of almost the same or a bit different. Yeah, and then evidence gap, knowledge gap, and all that. Okay, so you can base your analysis on these things. But here I'm going to just give you one of them, which I use based on the paper I picked. So I picked this paper, the article that you can see from here. Then when I went through that article, I was able to identify some limitations or some gaps that the paper, to me, they couldn't fail. And one thing that you need to understand is that every paper has a limitation. There's no paper which is 100%. So journal articles are just like human beings. No human being can claim to be 100% perfect. The same thing applies to journal. There's no journal article all over the world that the researchers can claim that their paper is perfect. Even perfect papers, people will still try to find an issue with it. And it's acceptable in academia. That's why in academia, it's acceptable for people to criticize you. When people criticize you, it's not that they don't like you. It's a normal thing. So don't take issues with people criticizing your paper or saying that you didn't do something right. It's normal. And that is what will lead to our research gaps and our research problems. So in this paper, when I was reading the paper, I identified one methodological gap, a limitation, a challenge. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. So this is what I when I read the paper. So when you read the paper, any gap that you identify, write it down. So for example, I mentioned that this article, which is Article 1, they utilize a qualitative review study method instead of using quantitative method. So here, when you are identifying the gaps or when you are writing down the gaps, see yourself as somebody who is trying to criticize. You are somebody who is in a position of criticizing the paper. In other words, you are trying to find fault with the paper. So that's how you write it. Okay, so I said, instead of they using quantitative study, they use qualitative study. So to me, it's an issue, it's a gap. And you don't just say this, you go ahead to give reasons why the qualitative study is not good enough. So you say qualitative studies are inherently subjective in nature, making it difficult to fit into this current study. Because the current study, the study that I'm conducting is a quantitative study, but they rather use qualitative study, making it difficult to fit into this current study because the objectivity of the findings cannot be assured. Further, the study identified 584 articles, but ended up using only 53 articles, making the sample size representation questionable. So by saying this, I have criticized the paper. In other words, at the same time, I have been able to identify and present a gap, an issue with the paper. So once again, I want to say this. You can only do this when you have read the article. If you have not read an article, you can't do what I have done here. So the era or the time where you used to just copy and paste parts of articles, I think it should be over. All of you should stop doing it. I'm encouraging you. I know it's going to be difficult, but I mean, start learning from today. Don't copy people's papers and just paste and make some few changes and present to anywhere. If you want to put anything into your paper, at least read the paper first, even if not all part of it. Okay, so the same paper, that's that one issue I've identified. Secondly, I identified another issue when I was reading the paper. And that issue come under what we call issue of knowledge gap. The study focused only on factors influencing literacy, leaving out critical issues such as barriers, models of financial literacy, training, support to gain financial literacy, and many other important issues. This is also another gap with the paper, the same paper, the same article. Good. Third, I identified another issue with the article when I was reading it. So once again, as I said, when you are reading the paper, just try to find fault with it. That's what I'm saying. Because I mean, these things I have stated here. It's not like when you are reading the paper, they are stated in the article. No, they are not stated there that like the way I've put this thing. No, but when you are reading, then you try to find fault with the paper by whatever means. Find fault with it. Another issue I saw with the paper is that in this article, the authors proposed a conceptual model, but the model was not tested and validated. They didn't, even though they have presented a conceptual model or a theoretical model in the paper, but there's no test. So I don't know whether the test is even good or it's not good, or it was okay for them to put it in there or not. So it's another issue. Then the last issue is that even though the study is a global study, its application will be difficult because different countries have different environments and factors that influence their financial literacy. So for example, if you are doing a study like a Ghanaian-based study, where somebody has conducted a global study, so you can say that somebody did a global study, but the person failed to make it a country-based study, and therefore you, which is your current study, you want to make it a country base, which is in this context, maybe Ghana or Nigeria or Sierra Leone or something. And by doing that, you have identified a gap, and you are going to solve that gap, or you are going to resolve that gap. So you can see that I guess you get this. So out of only this paper, I have identified how many issues? 4 issues with it. Now I'm going to put together my problem statement. So look at what I wrote. I wrote that, so it was the paper is about financial literacy. I said financial literacy has gained much attention in practice. So based on what I stated, however, there are many issues that exist on financial literacy. For example, supposed to be for example, Rayman and Mia 2024 utilized a qualitative review method to undertake assessment of financial literacy facts. However, this study did not follow the quantitative approach, which were okay, as followed or as done in this study, in this current study. A few grammatical issues. Okay, as we all know, these are more of my own words. As we all know, qualitative studies are inherently subjective in nature, making it difficult to fit into this current study because the objectivity of the findings of the qualitative study cannot be assured. Further, Rayman and Mia study identified 500 and something articles, making the sample size representation questionable. The study also focused only on factors. Then again, the study was a global study, making its application difficult for its current study, which is focused on Australia, because Australia has different. So you see, only one article, you see the things I've written, how many? Only one article. I've written almost 152 words. I'm almost halfway through my problem statement, or this alone can be a problem statement. Okay, then you also have another paper, another relevant paper. Then you also present their issue. But there's a way to go about this. The way to go about this is that, as I have stated these problems, right? When you are writing, you can use other papers to support what these people have, the gaps that you have identified in 1 or 2 papers. So for example, here, after the Raman use qualitative study, I can say that additionally, I can use anybody's name, maybe Emmanuel Awuji, Emmanuel 2025, further mentioned that qualitative studies are not good enough. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that. Again, Sharon 2023. So it's like you are the first issue that you identify, the first gap, you add more studies, or you provide more evidence to support that gap. So I say again, Sharon 2023 stated or recounted that qualitative studies are of low quality. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I'm in this right? So that's the first part. Then the second gap which has to do with what? The method, is it a methodology or something? Identify this. Yeah, with this. I can say that Ajemai 2022 recounted that or stated that or investigated and find whatever investigate. There are words to use: investigated, recounted, mentioned, or that you, conducting a study. Said that conducting a study with few data sample size or data sample is not good enough. So I've been able to get an additional evidence to support this claim. And furthermore with all the other things. So what I'm trying to say is that just create an Excel sheet, and within the Excel sheet, each of the papers, analyze them like the way I've done this one, analyze them, each of the papers, and then you combine in your write-up, you combine them. You use some of them to support some, like some of the statements, some of the gaps, some of the articles will support some of the evidence or some of the gaps that you present. The gaps that you identify from other articles, they will support some of the gaps that you have identified in other articles. So that's how you write your problem statement. And those of you who are writing thesis, it is good for you to base your study at least on 10. To me, that's what I would say. 10, at least 10 good papers, 10 relevant papers, which are related to the study that you are conducting. 10 is okay. Yeah, don't base it on one paper or two. So this is how you go about your research, the problem statement area. So you argue about why people should read your paper, because the problem statement actually will tell us the gap that you are addressing. If your study is not addressing any gap, or is not trying to address any limitation in existing literature, then your study is not a good study. And most reviewers, examiners, this is where they look at to judge whether your study is good or not. In fact, many reviewers and examiners, once they read your problem statement and they see that there's no gap, they will just throw your paper away. And those of you who have published papers can attest to this fact, especially when you get your reviewers' comment. The first thing that they look at is whether the paper that your study or your article, it is addressing a gap. If your study is not addressing any gap, I'm sorry, they will just put it somewhere. They will say, there's nothing new. What is new? What are you addressing? Maybe what you have already put in your paper, somebody has already addressed it. Okay, so please, everyone, learn this. I'll repeat this thing again next week. I'll pick maybe another 2 or 3 papers next week and take you through it. So once again, I want to just recap this area, because this is, to me, in the introduction session, the problem statement area is the most important part. All the other ones are just additions, but this is the most important, because whether your paper or your study is good enough for anybody to read, this is where they look at. What gap are you addressing? If you are not addressing anything, people will not continue reading your paper. So your paper is not good enough. So I want to recap. So one, you can look at this from methodological gap, and the methodological gap, some say, is the same as the data gap, the empirical gap, the research design gap. If you see all these things, so they are the same, or they are almost the same. And this gap focuses on the methodology that has been applied in existing literature. So maybe in the existing literature, they used quantitative method. For most of the studies that people have conducted, they have used quantitative method. And you want to conduct a qualitative method. Or most studies have conducted both qualitative and quantitative, but nobody has done mixed study. So it's a gap, it's a good gap for you to continue researching and applying the mixed method to it. It could also come from the point of the data. Maybe previous studies have applied fewer sample size or sample data set. Maybe currently you want to expand it and you are using, or you want to use a bigger sample size. That's a gap that is worthy of investigating. Like, for example, in this case where I mentioned that they mentioned they had 584, but they ended up using 53, which is low. If you look at the percentage, 53 out of 584 is low. So it's small, quote unquote. It could also be from you can also look at it from the research design. Well, the word research design, qualitative and quantitative, they are all the same. Yeah. And then what again? Yeah, so that's basically methodology part. Now the issue gap, which is the next one, has to do with a limitation in terms of knowledge and in terms of area of application. So for example, when I introduce you to something like green finance, I told you the other day that I remember very well when I was conducting my literature review and my study on green finance, on green buildings. At that time, it was almost like nobody has done it. But that did not mean that at that time nobody has conducted studies on green finance on its own, and then green buildings on its own. What I saw was that these two important issues or themes, they were separate. People have conducted separate studies on green buildings, and people have conducted separate studies on green finance. And I decided to merge the two together. That was my gap, because I saw it that people who are into green buildings have conducted their studies. Those who are into green finance, they have conducted their study. But when you look at bridging the gap between these two things, I saw that nobody at that time has done it. I did it, and it has generated a number of readings and citations. So that's an issue. Another thing that you can also look at, maybe the same topic, people have looked at maybe barriers, but they have not looked at critical success factors, or they have looked at critical success factors, but they have not looked at the barriers. Or an aspect of the entire issue. Like yesterday, for example, I was watching a podcast. I was listening to a podcast. It's kind of a YouTube podcast, but at the same time, it's also watching and listening at the same time. And they were BBC, and they were discussing whether AI is going to replace human beings. AI, human beings at the workplace. I was just listening to them. So if you want to conduct a study on this, right, you can make it like, we all know AI now, like everywhere you go now, or everywhere, people are talking about AI. But somebody has decided to focus on one aspect of AI, one issue out of AI. And the issue is whether AI is going to replace people at the workplace or not. Another person can also look at this issue from another angle. Maybe how AI is going to do what? Going to impact on our health. Another person can look at it from how AI is going to impact how people will raise their children, pregnancy, this, that. So if you look at something that people have not, an issue on a topic, an area that people have not addressed, then in that case, you are presenting what we call the issue or knowledge gap. Then we have the next one, which is the theoretical or model gap. The theoretical or knowledge gap is what I was doing, the thing that I was doing with you, or the thing I taught you the other time that we met. And has to do with the theoretical framework and then the conceptual framework and all that. So sometimes, or in many cases, you see that people have applied a certain theory to either a study or to something. And you want to use another theory. So for example, maybe people have applied the theory of plant behavior to a study or a research in the past. And currently you want to use a different theory. Let's say you want to use the technology acceptance model instead of the TPB or any other theory. Then in that case, and even sometimes it's not only just even about applying another theory, maybe the same theory, like the theory of plant behavior, you want to extend it. There's an extension. You want to expand that theory by adding more construct, more variables. That could be a gap. That could be something that you can address in your research. That will make your research stand out. Lastly, which is very important, it has to do with, and that's what a lot of people do, and it has to do with the geographical gap. That's the context. Maybe the study has been conducted in Australia, it has been conducted in Canada, it has been conducted in US, advanced country, but it has not been conducted in Ghana. That issue has not been investigated in Ghana. So when you investigate that, you are addressing a geographical or contextual gap. Maybe the thing has been addressed in the global north. When you talk about the global north, we are talking about advanced countries, but it has not been applied in the global south. The global south refers to the developing countries. It has not been done that way. When you do that, it's a contextual. The context can even be country specific. It can be region specific. It can be community specific. Maybe within the same Ghana, the study has been conducted in Kumasi, but it has not been conducted in Wa. The same issue. People have addressed, they have done a number of studies on. Yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I was reading something like, it's not really a biography, but it's the kind of some thoughts that people had with Professor Edubuahin. I guess some of you know him or you have heard of him. I mean, people who work with him. I was reading something like a 30-page document about people's experiences, his colleagues that he used to work with them. You know, and when I was reading that thing, along the way, there's something one of his former students, one of his colleagues, he said, and the person said that at that time when he got in touch with Professor Dubois, at that time, Professor Dubois has studies, research, conducted a lot of research on Akan, specifically Ashanti history, because remember, Professor Dubois was a historian. He has conducted a lot of studies, he has published books, Cambridge, Oxford. They have published books about the studies that Professor Dubois has, the research that Professor Dubois has conducted. And the person was a guy. The person said, I don't want to mention names, but the person said at that time, there was no history, the documented history about the people of Ghana, the Ghans. Not that there is no history, but I'm talking about like the documented, somebody who has done research into the history of the Ghans and has published them. At that time, the person said, no one has done it. It was Professor Dubois who encouraged this person I'm talking about to go into that area and conduct studies and publish them. And the person has become an authority today when it comes to history of the gas. And another person was also the Action people. So this is what we call I'm just giving you contextual gap, something that maybe some people have done it somewhere, but when it comes to a certain area, people have not done it. It's called contextual gap or geographical gap. And when you do that and you do it well, it's good. That's why I understand that many of us, those of us in Ghana, most of our studies are about Ghana. It's understandable. Yeah, because I mean, you have to conduct what you see around you. But I will suggest from my recent this thing, I suggest some of you should try and do global studies. Take World Bank data, IMF data, and do global studies. Enough of always Ghana, everything Ghana. And even the Ghana thing, I want to encourage some of you. You have to go into the certain areas. Because some of you, your studies are too generic. Because you say Ghana, but even the Ghana, we don't know whether you are talking about Accra or Kumasi or Tamale, or we don't even know what you are talking about. Because what I've also come to realize is that if we really want to do a very good contextual study, contextual research, be specific. That's why people who are into history, archaeology, and some of these things, that's why they are very popular. Why? Because some of these people, they study specific areas. Like some of you in construction industry, I'm expecting that you conduct a study on how subcontractors are being treated in maybe Kumbugu. You go into that research, Kumbugu. Or you conduct maybe where? Fabodie beton chalk or whatever they say it, Like that's proper contextual gap. But if you do something like, I understand why people do that, and we all do it. I'm not trying to criticize this thing too much. I'm not trying to be mean, but over the years, one thing I've come to notice that people who do such studies, they tend to even get more citations. People prefer such studies. They want to know what is happening on the ground, not generic studies that so and so, and the thing is so general that you don't even know where to apply the thing to. Okay, so I want to encourage you in future, when you get some funding, try to do proper contextual studies. Go into Kumbugu, Paga, what? Bodresango, Asimfusu, Ada, so many. You get my point. The people want to know what is happening to people on the ground. That's research. Do a proper contest, not like Ghana. But in Ghana, we don't even know what the Ghana that you are talking about. We don't even know the Ghana. But anyway, don't take my words to read that. I'm just saying. But I mean, that's proper contextual study. It's somebody. Yeah. Please, I will let everyone keep your your questions. I will let you come in, but I just want to continue so that I'll finish. Then keep your questions and your comments. I'll come to you. Then you ask me. Then I'll answer. But keep them. I just want to continue and finish. Then I'll come to you so that you ask your questions or you pass your comments. Yeah. So please, once again, to me, in this part of the introduction, if I am marking any research, I would say this, to me, that's my own assessment. I would say I'll give this section 50 to 70%. Whether your introduction is good or not, the percentage I'll give to this part is 50 to 70%. If I look at this section and I don't see any proper research gap, which is the foundation of the research problem, I'm sorry. I may put your paper away. And as I said, this is where everyone will get to know whether you have done some readings. Yeah. I will clearly see whether you have read the paper to come out with a cab and you are trying to address it or not. If I read this section, and when I read, I will see it. Somebody who has not read anything, you can easily see that the person has copied somebody's work from somewhere and the person has just modified small or has used ChatGPT or Copilot to change somebody's thing. That thing is not good. Please don't do it. I don't want to encourage anybody to do it. I'm not trying to train anybody to be a low-key researcher. One of the things, okay, when I also read about Professor Dubois, they said the man was very strict when it comes to research. And he always want quality. Always. I wish I'll try to send that thing to you. Those of you who will get time, you just read about it. I mean, I read about everyone, irrespective of your political whatever. It's not really about I'm not talking about, it's not politics. I just read to get to know who some people are and what they did. In fact, some of the comments I was impressed about his work ethics. Very strict. And he will read everything that you send to him, letter by letter, word by word. He pass comments. And he will always make sure that you present, if your work is not quality, and then one of them passed a comment that no wonder all his students after him became great, or like they are great in their area of research and teaching. Yeah, so I'm not trying to teach people, or I'm not trying to train people who be quack, low-key, people who do cut and paste. The days of cut and paste is gone. And if you are somebody who is fond of doing cut and paste, you have to stop it. I'm pleading with you. You need to sit down and read. You must be somebody who like reading. And as I've mentioned, at least one paper a week. To read one, just one, not even two, one, just read one paper the whole week. You're going to be okay. Read it and analyze it well and pick some things from it. You're going to be fine. That's all about research. In fact, research, you don't have to read all the papers one day. So sometimes I don't know why people say research is so difficult. You don't have to read everything every day. It's just that people don't manage their time well. That's what I have come to notice. People don't manage their time because I have so many things doing. If you ask Emmanuel, G, Solomon, and all that, they will tell you. But I still get time to write many things. So the question is, how am I able to get time to write all these things? Because I read things one after the other, one after. Sometimes the whole of the month, I've even read one paper, but that's good enough for me. Why? Because that paper, I have read it, I've analyzed it, I've consumed important things out of it, and that's it. You don't have to do everything together one day, but it's all come down to you. That's how you manage your things. If you are somebody who is not disciplined enough to manage your things, you always find the thing to be difficult, but actually it is not. So you have to be disciplined. Research demands that you are a disciplined person. If you are not disciplined, research is not good for you. Maybe you have to start learning how to become a musician. Even musicians are disciplined. There's no work in this world that I know you will not apply discipline. Musicians are disciplined, artists are disciplined, comedians are disciplined. You see, comedian Obian Ponsa or Obian Ponsa, that guy, very sharp guy. Do you know he's an optometrist, or is it optometrist or whatever? Very sharp guy. Discipline is needed everywhere. So you have to be disciplined. You have to sit, you have to put your buttocks down and read something. The days of just, I'm going to rush to go and cut somebody's papers and paste it somewhere, please, you have to stop it. You need to stop it now. If you really want to be a good researcher. Other than that, you always complain that the thing is difficult, but it's not difficult. It's you that you are rather difficult. What is the next section? The next section is once you finish writing your gap, then you go ahead by saying that on the basis of these issues or these gaps, my purpose, as far as my study is concerned, is that I'm addressing, I'm examining, I'm investigating, I'm exploring, so and so. So on the basis of the gaps, that's why I mentioned that the problem statement must come on the basis of the issues that you have identified in current literature. You go ahead to state the research goal, aim. The word goal, aim, purpose, they are all the same. So far, I've not seen anywhere where the three of them they are the same. They are the same. So research goal, aim, purpose is the same. So you see, on the basis of the problems or the research gaps, the issues that you have identified and presented in this study, you aim to examine, you aim to assess, you aim to explore, you aim to investigate, so and so and so. So you see where the whole thing is coming from. So therefore, if your research problem is not good enough, it's going to affect even the purpose that you state. Yeah. And you have to be sure about what you are doing. That's why I want people to read. Because if you cut somebody's work and paste it somewhere, definitely you are not going to be sure about what you are. That's why sometimes you take some people's theses, you take some people's articles, and the problem statement is somewhere, and the purpose is also going somewhere. There's no correlation. They don't relate. Okay, so on the basis of this, based on this, I said the aim, this is not the right aim, but I just stated something. That's not what I was studying, but it's just an example. On the basis of this, on the basis of one problem statement, I said the study aim to examine so and so, as you can see, in this case, artificial intelligence within the Australian retail industry. This is just an example. Right. Then from here, from the purpose, two things. Some people state objectives first before they state the research questions. Any of them, to me, you haven't done anything wrong. Whether you state your research objectives first or you state your research questions first, they are okay. They're fine. What is it? So the research objectives and questions, they are just a breakdown of your purpose. Therefore, if your purpose is not good, it's going to affect your research questions and research objectives. So it's just a breakdown. You break, so the research purpose or goal or the aim is the big picture. Is the big picture. And the big picture, you break the big picture, or you turn the big picture into smaller pieces. And the smaller pieces, that's where you get the research objectives and then the research questions from. I will start from, in this case, I will start from the objectives. So here, I stated 3 objectives. So out of the aim or the purpose of the goal, my objectives to help me to achieve the aim or the purpose of the goal, my objectives were to identify the key sustainability indicators, to assess the benefits of AI, to examine the relationship between this. By addressing these things, I'm sure that the main purpose will be achieved. And out of this, I raise research questions like, what are the key sustainability indicators? How does AI benefit Australian retail industry? What are the relationship between sustainability and AI? And other questions, which I think are important. Okay, good. But when you are writing an article, because of the nature of article, it's not good for you to do the 2 at the same time. So I would suggest that when you are writing a journal article, either after you state the purpose, either you focus on research questions or you focus on research objectives. And from my experience, that's what I've seen. It's not advisable for you to state all the 2 because you are not writing thesis. It's not thesis. It's a journal article. So either in your journal article, you put in the objectives or you put in one of them. Don't put the 2. That's my recommendation. And this recommendation is based on the number of papers I have written and I have read. Okay, the next important thing. So also in your your article, you need to give some form of you have to give some form of relevance, justification, significance, contributions, implications. Okay, the word implications, please, we have 15 minutes more, then I will let everyone come in. We'll be finishing soon. The word implications, contributions, there are some differences in scholarly discourse or discussions, but the two can also be used interchangeably. Whilst implications are about what are the likely impacts, the contributions are what are you adding to have the name code? What are you adding to research, current literature, which is research, to practice, and to maybe policies, contributions, right? But the two of them, implications and contributions, the two of them are used interchangeably. Therefore, if you want to go by the word contributions, go by the word contribution. If you want to go by the word implications, I would say go by the implications, so that anyone who is going to examine your work will not question you. Because personally, I have been questioned in one of my studies. One of the articles I published, one of the reviewers asked me that, what is the difference between the two? What is the difference between your implications and contributions? Okay, good. But either of them, these are the things that you have to write. So whether it's implications or contributions, it should cover things like the academic scholarship, that's theoretical contribution, advancement of knowledge, advancement of research method, advancement of a theory, advancement of a model, advancement of some. So in other words, what is your study? How is your study going to contribute? What are the implications of your study to current literature? Very important. You need to state that at the introduction, briefly. It could be a statement or two. It's very important. People need to know. Then what's your study's contribution to practice? How is your study going to contribute to practice? Industry practice frameworks, including practice policies for organizations, for practitioners. You need to state that. Then the policies could be national policies, international policies, industry. So somebody like Tim, I think your study is about climate change and health implications. So after your study, how is your study going to contribute to, for example, Ghana's policies on the national policies on climate change and even health in general? You need to state that. How is your study going to contribute to climate change, tree planting, carbon emissions, anything you need to mention? Sustainability in general, and this one you look up to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs. How is your study helping us to address any of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals? The question that somebody will ask is, so Doug, do I have to mention all these? No, you can mention one or two of this. You can focus on the academic, which is the theoretical, and then the practice, and that's it. And mostly the kind of research that we are doing, which are not industry funded, which we have not received research grants for them, I suggest you focus on the first two. How is your study going to contribute to the already existing knowledge and in academia? And how is your study going to contribute to practice? Just focus on these two, and I think you are going to be okay. Because when it comes to policies, I know that your study cannot contribute, but mostly when it comes to policies, it's more of reports and some of these funded projects. But if you are just, because it's likely John Mahama will not read your paper to make a decision. Are you sure John Mahama is going to read your paper to make a decision on climate change? And John Mahama is not going to read your paper. Huh?
Maybe the MC will read.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, maybe. But even that one is maybe. It's not 100%. But if let's say, Ken, your study is funded, that's there's a likelihood. Even sometimes funded projects are not even read. They don't even read anything. It just is a fund that they want to do something to show that they are doing something, just to maybe pocket some money and all that. We all know how things work in our country. But at the end of the day, whether they are going to base on whatever findings that you have to make decisions, I don't think so. Because there are so many reports that have been submitted to governmental institutions in Ghana, and I would say even in the larger developing countries, that people have never even read them. They are politicians. They make decisions based on what is convenient and what will give them votes. You are talking about reports. What is report to us? Yeah, it's everywhere, even not only even in developed countries. Even in developed countries, your report, they have to scrutinize it and whatever, and take whatever they want to take out of it and throw the rest somewhere. So it's everywhere. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that to be on the safer side, just focus on academia and practice. That's it. And that you're okay. Yeah, I know some research studies contribute to culture by changing the way people behave, communities, societies, social justice. You know, but I mean, don't worry yourself much about that. The issue of scope or this thing here, I would say don't really worry much, because this one is more of a thesis. When you are trying to write a research, this part, I think it would be better you take it to the methodology section, which I'll teach you another time. The scope, where you define the scope. But definitely in your research, like for example, if you look at this goal, I mentioned that the study is being conducted where? In Australia. Is there the Australian retail industry. So that's the scope, that's the area of research. So that has been captured by a statement. But if you want to delve deeper and go deeper into it, because remember, as I said, this is not thesis. If it is thesis, you have to write the scope of the certain part, explain it well, and you go further. But because this is a journal article, you don't really have to bring this part. It's not necessary. Once you mention, let's say your study, so and so, you are looking at the barriers of blockchain in Ghana. That's it. Anyone will understand that the scope, the area of research, or where your study is about is Ghana. That's it. There's no need for you to go further. Okay. But if you want to go further, then I would suggest you take it to the methodology section, where you collect the data collection section, where you go ahead and explain the kind of people that you will be reaching out to, the target population, and the rest, and who they are, and the rest. Okay, so this part, I will not really focus on this. Limitations in introduction, I will not suggest you put that there, but I have seen some studies where people put limitations in the introduction. I would rather suggest you take the limitations to the conclusion section of your research, which I'll teach you another time. Yeah, because to me, it is too early for you to start writing limitations. Because the study that you are now starting, or journal, especially in a journal article, and you have started mentioning limitations, it's too early for me. So normally I don't put it in the introduction, and I've seen many articles, so they don't do the same. But I have seen few articles where people put limitations at the introduction session. But I personally will not recommend you put the limitations at the beginning. Okay, great. The last part is give a brief, it could be a sentence or two. That will help us to know the subsequent sections. Once again, this is not a thesis, so you don't have to do this. If you are writing thesis, this is acceptable. But because this is not thesis, don't do this in your introduction. Just give one sentence or two by saying that the subsequent sections will include literature review, methodology, data analysis, discussion, conclusion. you end there. Okay, so that's it. I will quickly show you my article. Okay, briefly, and then we have 6 minutes more. Then now we come to the end, and then you start asking questions. So when you look at this my article, okay, before I come here, so let me say this. So you can put these sections down as I have done, right? But once you are done, remove all the subsection or the section titles. All the parts, remove them and rather make them paragraphs. So the background part, the research problem part, the research goal, and the rest part, just remove them, collapse everything and put them together. Okay. But when you begin, if in case you are struggling and you have issues, you can have this thing there, the one I have just presented to you, like in the form of a thesis. But when you are done, you have to collapse all these sections, put them together. Okay, good. So I want to show you this my article briefly, and then we go. So this my article, the first part is all about the background. I don't have time to read it, and I'm not going to read it, because if I'm going to do that, we are not going to finish. So the background is the first paragraph. From the first paragraph, I zoom into the problem statement. Despite, so you start words like despite, however, even though, so and so, that, something to. Despite the positive stories recounted on green buildings, the ideal financing models to meet the key tenets of this innovative building model have not been holistically developed, investigated, and promoted within the construction research community. So this is, I started recounting or narrating my problem. So you start words like despite, however, even though, those words. That's how you start your problem statement with. So this section, which is the second section, is my problem statement. In fact, when you read, you get to know all these things. Then I stated a problem statement. Then I ended by saying that therefore, or thus, a depth and scarcity of studies interrelating green finance to green buildings set a foundation for this research and further researches in the area. Therefore, systematically, the main aim of this study is to review so and so. So here, then my aim or my purpose has been stated. Okay, so the aim has been stated. Great. Then I went ahead to give some kind of justification in terms of the contribution and implication. And if you read this carefully, you see that I justify by talking about the academic implications, the practice implications for practice and policies. Okay, and then I concluded with the structure. This section of the study leads to the overview of the. Okay, good. So after this, so this is the structure, the remaining section. So I said this section, which is the introduction, leads to the overview, which is the next section of the two terminologies. So when you read the paper, you see where a brief explanation of the two major concepts in this is provided. Afterward, the research methodology is presented. Then the resource is presented. Then I conclude. The closing section of the study summarizes the results of the study and presents its limitation. That's it. So that's how you write. And this is a good, it's not the best. I will not use the word best. I'll say good. I'm saying good because many people have cited it. People have read. When I think I checked the last time, people have read it like almost about 20,000 times. People have read it 20,000. It has received over of 100 is almost like now 200 citations. That means it's a good paper, if not the best. It's a good paper. No, I will not use the best. Yeah. So please, you can get this paper and look at the same thing. So this is what the background. I gave a background, what green finance is about, what green buildings is about. I explain everything and the motivation, rationale behind the green finance, green buildings, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, I came to the problem statement. Okay, gave the gaps. And then I stated my goal, gave a justification, and then I ended with a summary. So that's it. Thank you. The time is up. 7:30 exactly. We are up. Now it's time for questions and answers, and then also it's time for if somebody also has what should I put it? If somebody wants to contribute, you're allowed to contribute. If you want to pass a comment to contribute to the discussion, that would be great. Yeah, so please, yeah, the first person should go. Anyone can go on mute, talk.
Yeah. Okay, Doc. Thank you very much, Doc.
Okay, we are doing this for the next 30 minutes, and then we go.
I have 3 questions.
Okay, put all of them together. Go.
The number of papers that you have to read in order to come up with a comprehensive manuscript. And then the 2.
Okay. No, okay. Let me answer you one by one, please, so that I don't forget. So the number of papers, there's no number of papers that anybody can recommend anywhere that you have to read. It's not. If I'm going to do this, but I mean, all things being equal, the more the better. The more the better. The more the better in the sense that the more you read, the more you get understanding, the more you get to know the different angles to a topic, the more the better. But for me to say read 2 articles or 10 articles or 15 articles or 30 articles, that one I can't tell. And nobody can also tell you this. But I will recommend that the more the better. Yes. In many cases, one thing I have come to notice is that, and that thing too, I want to encourage everybody, you have to stop doing it. People will intentionally focus on about 2 or 3 papers, and they will cite, they keep on citing the same people they will cite, they will be repeating, citing. Please, it's not allowed. It's not good. It clearly shows that you have not read enough. Anybody who is a good reviewer, any good examiner will see that you have not read enough. It's only 2 papers that you are citing. And some time ago, I asked somebody and the person said, oh, it's because those papers are relevant. Yes, those papers are relevant. It's true. Maybe they form the foundation of your study or something. But remember, they are not the only studies available on that topic, if you are going to be honest. Like yesterday, I was dealing something with someone and the person said, oh, the person even used the word luck. Or the person said, oh, nobody has done something around something. And I told the person that is not the case. I actually pointed the person to Google Scholar. And do you know what we found? We found over 300,000 papers available on that topic. 300,000. So it's an indication that you have not read enough. So you have to take it upon yourself and do more reading. So Emmanuel, I will recommend you do more reading. As to the number, I don't have a number to give to you, because if I do that, it's going to limit your academic work. Thank you. Next question.
So thank you, Ronald. My next question is about the contextual gap. So you read a paper. I was doing something on social sustainability, and then I developed my argument. And then the argument, I cited almost about 8 papers from the general concept. When I narrowed it to Ghana, I cited 2 particular papers, and then the reviewer was like, it's not necessary. It doesn't mean that if these people has done this, doesn't mean that you also do something this, that. So I was like, the reviewer, I was doing something on social sustainability, and then in Ghana, and then the person also like there's some study in Ghana that they use the perspective of quantity surveyors, and I'm saying that because of that, it doesn't give a general overview of social sustainability in the construction industry. And then the reviewer was like, it's not necessary. Its justification is not well granted enough for me to conduct another study on it.
Yeah, I agree with the reviewer. The reason being that just trying to say that because somebody, maybe one group of people did not, then it's what about if these quantity surveyors that you mentioned, what about if they represent, I mean, almost all the organizations in the construction industry in Ghana? I'm just saying, or let me say, what about if these quantity surveyors were sampled from different construction firms in Ghana? At the end of the day, that means they have represented, or they are representing the construction firms. Even though, yes, their position is different, quantity surveyors are not the same as architects and others. But somebody can argue that. So what I will recommend you do is that start studies. When you see a study like that, especially when you see a topic that some people have done similar thing, I will suggest you move away from that, because I've seen what you are talking about, and it's very common in Ghana. Like you see barriers of sustainability, and somebody is also doing the same barriers. And sometimes when you go into it, the difference is a little, not much. Recently, I was dealing with someone from your department, your school, who wanted to convert something into something. And the topic that the person was trying to deal with is something that some people have already published papers on. And I told the person, this one, if you go into the thing, the people are likely to accuse you of taking their work or something. You get my point? So some topics, you can see that the similarities are too clear. They're like, so you don't see much difference. Maybe the person will only say, oh, they did descriptives. I want to conduct factor analysis. It's not that the justification is just so pretty now.
Is that not a gap?
It's a gap. You get my point. It's a gap, but the gap, I would say, it should be something. Stay away. If, for example, like this social sustainability that you are talking about, right? Let's assume you added another variable or something that I'm trying to look at social sustainability in addition to stakeholder engagement. Of course, it's a social sustainability and it's the same thing that the people did, but you have added another dimension to it. But trying to be like, oh, they analyze the thing with mean, so I want to analyze the thing with standard deviation. Some people question you, that one straight up. People question you, like, this one. And I see that in a lot in many people they are studying. I'm not saying it's not a gap, it's a gap, but the gap must be, the gap should be very strong. Very strong. I would never encourage my students. That's why when we're starting this study, I asked you to submit your topics, and I modify some of the people's topics, some of your topics. I checked to see that none of the topics that we are dealing with, somebody has done it. And even if somebody has done it, similar thing, I try to add something. Like if you take Sharon's work that she's working on, she's looking at electric vehicles. I decided to add stakeholder engagement, because if you check right now, electric vehicle infrastructure, somebody has done a study on that. But about the stakeholder engagement, has somebody done that? No. So that brings another dimension to the whole thing, and that makes it different. But just trying to be like I'm doing the same thing. And Emmanuel, what I'm saying, I mean, I get what they said, but I mean, if I'm working with you, I can present it better. But I'm just giving a general something that I want people to be discouraged from doing exactly what people have done in the past, because I've seen this thing over and over and over. And me, I used to do a lot of gala. I think some of you know what you call gala. Galamsey. Like I used to support people to write their thesis when I was doing my masters. I did a lot. I can count about 50 or more. I did that a lot. I used to see this thing a lot. I used to see it's like almost the same thing that someone is trying to do the same that somebody has done. Huh?
No.
Yes. So,
what you said is that I remember. Are you one of your papers to do gala for your insurance paper with what do they call it?
oh my God.
Professor the same thing, masters. So we use your paper to mimic the same thing, and then it pass.
So that's what I'm talking about. This thing, me, I know how the thing works. Somebody say, I know the game. I know the game. I know this game than any other person. And I don't think over the years I've come to understand, especially during my PhD studies, it's not the best way of doing research, because at the end of the day, you are not adding anything new. It's almost like what the you are tweaking the thing small. You get it? You are tweaking the thing small. You are not adding anything new to research. And that's how come I even mentioned it to somebody the other. That's how come most of the studies that people conduct in Ghana and most developing countries, many people don't cite it. Because sometimes most of these studies in developing countries, they just only talk about, okay, the thing was done in US and I'm doing it in Ghana. But if you really go into the thing, what at all is different. It's almost the same thing that the people did in the US, and the person has repeated the same thing, the same methodology, the same everything, same. The only thing maybe that is different is the person using the word Ghana. And that kind of research, to be honest with you, nobody will cite it, because they see it to be like, it's the same. Because if I have similar research, one from Ghana and US, I will definitely cite the one from US, all things being equal. So that's how come most of our studies are not cited. But I've also seen studies from Ghana that a lot of people have cited. And do you know why a lot of people have cited? They have added a dimension, they have added something to the thing. So like, once again, I want to use Sharon's thing, electric vehicles infrastructure and stakeholder engagement. Anyone, anywhere would like to read that article. Like I did a literature review, which focused only on Ghana, and it was sustainable infrastructure using PPP. And it was only Ghana, not other countries. That paper has received a lot of citations, over 100 citations, because of the way I went about it. Okay, so it's about how you go about it, because most of the studies that I normally see, people are repeating the same thing that people have done somewhere, repeating. They are not bringing anything new. And part of it comes down to what I began by saying, that many people do a lot of cut and paste. The cut and pasting has not helped anybody. And if you are going to be a good researcher who will stand out, you need to start changing that style. You need to change. I know it will take some time, but you have to definitely change in the long run. Other than that, you're not going to be a good researcher. No good researcher is into cut and paste. That will never help you. You cut, or you take exactly what people have done somewhere, you copy the same thing, and then use ChatGPT to change the words. And today, the good thing is we even have Copilot. Copilot can do the work for you. Or Gemini. You just change the words, I know some people who just copy the same sentences and just just try to, if the thing is maybe, when I say change the words, it's the same thing, but I don't know. It was just change the thing. It's not helpful. Probably Emmanuel, last one.
Please, my next question is:
Mhm.
let's say there's a popular concept in the industry,
Mhm.
and then you want to bring that concept into your field of
Into
study,
your
let's say in
field.
the construction industry.
That's a
Is
good
it
gap.
advisable?
Yeah, that's a good gap, and that's how come we have circular economy in its origin is not a construction management concept. It's actually not even a business concept as well. It's not a finance concept. It actually came from manufacturing and fashion, the fashion industry, circular economy. If you go and read the original source, the original place where the concept of circular economy started from is fashion. Those who are into fashion, all these print manufacturing, like GTP and Akosumo textiles, and those, they are the originators of the circular economy concept. But today, you see that it has been applied in finance, business, construction management, everywhere. So if you see a concept that the same thing applies to blockchain. Blockchain too is initially was not a construction management concept. It was more finance and IT. And now it's everywhere. So if you see a concept somewhere that you see that has not been applied in your field, you can apply it. And that's one of the biggest gaps that you can address that can lead you to get a lot of citations. Right? Like the concept of digital twins. It was also not originally a construction management concept, but that has also been now applied and people are receiving a lot of citations. So that's it. So if you see a concept somewhere, and that is where for you to do this, you need to be, my personal recommendation, you need to be somebody who is a lover of current affairs, current news. Yeah. You can only get to know what is going on around the world. You can't be a very good researcher who is not into current news, world news, current affairs. Because if you don't know what is going on around the world, you only stick to the limited thing that you know in your field. You need to be somebody who read wide. That's read wide means reading everything. It's not everything that you have to also read. I'm talking about relevant things. It's not everything that you have to follow. Right, you need to understand. Like currently, the chatbot or chatbot, Copilot, Gemini. Have any of you watched a podcast on it? Have you watched a YouTube video on how the generative AI is affecting us? You need to. That's how you generate new research ideas. So you need to be somebody who is a reader of world news, industry, or even in your industry, you need to know what is going on. You need to read. And you need to watch the news. You need to watch YouTube videos. YouTube videos is not always about somebody cooking jollof. Enough of always watching jollof, how to prepare new jollof. You have to prepare new soup. I'm not saying those things are not important. They are important. I mean, they are part of our lives. But you need to also go beyond these things and watch other things. Sit down, podcast. Some podcasts are like 20 minutes. Listen, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, I remember very well some time ago, like when getting to the end of my PhD. At that time, that was the time that the circular economy thing has become very topical. I used to almost like every day, I used to listen to one podcast from ABC, some from CNN. I wanted to understand the concept of circular economy. So currently, what is the topic which is everywhere? It's AI, generative AI. That is everywhere. The thing should not necessarily be, they should not always talk about construction. They should not necessarily talk about business. Just listen. Just get an idea. That's how you learn. Okay. So Emmanuel is done. Any other person? We have 11 minutes.
Yes,
So
Doc.
we have
Doc, my hand is up.
yeah, Kim.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
Kim,
hand
go
is
up.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go,
Doc.
Kim.
My is about the geographical gap.
Mhm.
So there's a topic I'm working on, and I found a similar work done in informal sectors in Accra, but I am doing it
Okay.
in an urban area. I'm doing
Okay,
it in an
good.
urban area. Yes. So I was trying to find out if it is good enough. It's a gap.
Yeah, it's good enough. It's good for you to do it. It's acceptable. But once again, check the content. At the end of the day, nobody will penalize you for doing such study. But the issue that, as I mentioned, is when you try to copy the same thing into the same thing. Because even if you look at the informal, maybe in this case, you are looking at the regional areas, rural areas. South Africa, Australia, we say regional areas. It's
No, the
different
study
from
was
those
done in
living
the study was done in Accra, but it was done in informal
Oh, Accra.
sectors in Accra. Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to look at perceptions of inhabitants on heat stress,
Okay.
and then their
So now,
ability
where do
to
you
adapt.
want to conduct it?
So currently, I'm doing the
So
study in
currently,
Osu.
Osu. But
I'm doing it
Osu
in
is still
Osu.
urban
Yes,
area.
Osu is urban, but the study that I found
Mm-hmm.
earlier was done around Choco and those areas where
Still
they are even
urban.
closer to the. Yes.
It's still urban. So it's urban and urban in this context. Osu and Choco, they are all in Accra. Oh, I'm wrong.
They are all in Accra, but the Choco area is when you look at the buildings, the impervious surfaces, and so on. That in Osu is not the same as what we have in Choco.
Okay, I get your point. So in that case, what you have to do, that's why I say the framing, how you go about it. You need to bring out something that would distinguish or will make the two areas different. Because if you are going, you are looking at this from the face value, they are all in urban areas. The two of them, Accra, they are all Accra suburbs. But there's something that will make it different. So what maybe you can say is maybe those living in, there's a name for that. Is it what? Is it rich neighborhood? And I mean, that's how we call that here. Those in the rich neighborhood and those in the poor neighborhood, something like that. So you can see that some people have conducted a study in Accra, but they focus on the poor neighborhood. But you want to look at how this can work out in a rich neighborhood. And you continue to give justifications, you provide evidence as to why the study is worthy to be studied. And I think it's a good study. You can do that. But what you have to be careful about is don't repeat the same thing that they said, because my issue with some of these studies, as I said, somebody who has done a lot of Gala in the past, is that you are likely to repeat the same thing that the people said in the thing, and that's one you are not doing anything new.
I was looking at when you look at Osu, we have Tudu and others, the market areas. I mean, the human activities that go on there are more than what
Okay.
goes on around chocolate areas. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So once again, as I said, you have to just give reasons why this study is worthy to be studied.
Okay.
Once you are able to give that, like what you have just mentioned, the Osu area is a busy area.
Yes.
All the businesses are there and blah blah. There must be, you have to give a justification. And once you are able to do that, then it's a good study to go ahead and do. But what I'm trying to say is that try as much as possible not to repeat exactly what they did at
They
Choco.
have done. Okay.
Yes, be very careful, because your study is you are likely to repeat You are likely, and you need to be very careful about that. That's all. But other than that, it's a good study because there are many studies where people have looked at the same city, the same country, those living in the rich area, which is a rich neighborhood, against those living in the poor areas, poor suburbs. And yeah,
they only
that's right.
assess the community perceptions, but I'm combining community perceptions with temperature trends for over 20
That's
years.
good. So there's something that you are adding there, which is a good research. Yeah. So it's worthy. I would love to read your introduction. So when I see the
Doc.
introduction, I'll see what I will say. Yeah. Any other person? Thank you.
Yes, Doc.
Yes, please go ahead. We have 5 minutes. Let's be quick.
Okay, so Doc, please, with the aspect of writing a thesis, when you are about writing the problem statement, right? Is it good to write the various gaps identified as subsections under the problem statement? For instance, after giving the brief description of the problem, then you introduce subsections, say evidence gap. Then you talk about the evidence gap. Then you move on to, let's say, geographical gap. Then you talk about one.
Okay, that's a good question. Another circumstance, that's the best way to go about it. But because of the nature of writing, like presentation, you have to combine them. So you can combine them by putting them into paragraphs. So instead of bringing subsections, make them paragraphs. That's what I would suggest. Because if you bring subsection like methodological gap, issue gaps, and all that, you are likely to be questioned, or whoever is reviewing. I know some reviewers and some supervisors, they will be okay with what you are saying, but the norm is that put them under paragraphs. So for example, your first paragraph will talk about the methodological gap. The second paragraph within or under the problem statement will talk about the issue gaps. Your third paragraph will talk about the theoretical gap. And then your last paragraph, which is the fourth paragraph, will talk about the geographical gap. So to me, I recommend put them into paragraphs and then remove the subheadings. That's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other person? Okay, so if there's no other person, thank you all for coming. Please, I want to say that everybody start writing your introduction, because next week we'll go through this again and I'll provide more evidence. I'm teaching everybody to be a good researcher. I'm not teaching you to be a bad researcher, but a good one, which will help you with your thesis and then your journal article publications. So please start writing something. So pick your topic, the topic that you presented to me, the topic that you are writing you are collecting the data on. Start writing. In fact, when I read your introduction, I will get to know more about what your study is about. Because currently, many of you have only topics and you have only developed questionnaires and you are distributing. But whatever you want to really research into is not so clear. But in the introduction will give me a clear picture of what you want to write. So please start writing, everyone. And I'm going to give everybody maximum 3 weeks to complete the introduction. 3 weeks. So it's starting from today. If you're able to finish it early, that's good. And remember, I'm going to do everybody's review on first come, first serve basis. The same thing I have done with the data analysis, the data collection. I know some of you have still not submitted your data thing to me, and you are delaying. And remember, it will affect you. In many things, I don't talk about them, but I just look at you for you to do your own thing, because I'm a liberal person, a liberal Democrat. Kind of. No, I'm just joking. And I just look at you to do whatever you like. I don't really put pressure on anyone. I believe in freedom. But remember, at the end of the day, it's going to affect you, because many people here, they have already started their data collection. And some of them, if I'm not exaggerating, they have got more than 10 responses or more. And some of you have not even started. And you are still there. I have to be chasing you and be sending you messages. It's not the best. I will not talk about it. But remember, it will affect you in the long run, because when the day comes, we are doing the analysis, and that's the time that you are still collecting your data. Remember, it's going to affect you. So I will not talk much. So I have all your lists here, as you can see. I have your names, your list, those who have distributed, those who are still waiting, marking time. But remember, the marking time, it will come back to bite you. It will not bite anybody, you yourself. So it's the earlier you work on whatever you have to work and submit it to me so that I'll approve it, so that you start collecting the data, the better. The same thing applies to the introduction. The earlier you start writing your introduction so that you send it to me for me to take my time, review, pass comment, so that you can improve, the better. The more you delay, the more things are going to affect you. And this time around, as I said, I'm not going to wait for us to, like when we finish doing the data analysis. That's the time that I will ask people to start writing the paper. I have seen over the years that it delays a lot of things. So this year, we are going step by step. So the next step is the introduction. Okay, the next step is introduction. So when you submit, I will review, pass comments, and then, yes. So that's how we are doing it. Thank you very much.
Doc,
Yes.
this is Ken. You said tomorrow morning we will look at my questionnaires again.
Yes. Tomorrow morning in Ghana contest, because I am already in the morning, so it's evening.
Okay.
It will be evening here, so that means evening.
Okay.
I will be expecting you.
Okay, so what time should I call? What time should I call, please?
Anytime between 7 a.m. in Ghana time to 10 a.m. Ghana time.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, have a great time and see you soon. Yeah, see everybody soon. Okay, thank you. Have a great time. God bless. Bye-bye. Is there someone? I think your hand is up. Sing song. Thomas. Oh, you're okay.
I'm not sure
Sing
he's
song.
there.
Your hand is.
The
But
hand is up. He's not there.
oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Madana. Uvia from Madana.
Yo, Ima. Ima.